At the very outset, sir, it's a great honor for me to be here at CAPS to present Navy's perspective of what we see, how the space would transform Navy NCO. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Commodore MP Rajesh Nair. I'm heading the Networks and Space Operations in Indian Navy. And in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be presenting the salient aspects of Navy's utilization of space domain and the vision for the future. As we all know this, the space along with the cyber has emerged as a critical dimension of warfare. Rapid development in technology, reduction in costs, and increasing participation by private industry makes it a very contested, congested, and a competitive domain. And the nations are innovating to establish their supremacy in space domain. Therefore, a participative approach of the Indian Armed Forces in the space segment with a clear articulation of vision and methodology to cater to future wars is the need of the hour. With that as background, I would be covering my topic under the following heads. Before I go into the specifics of space-based maritime requirements, let me dwell on our immediate neighborhood peculiarities of maritime domain and the iron requirements thereof. The IOR where we operate in is a very busy region, and at any given time, we have around 5.5 lakh fishing vessels, over 15,000 merchantmen, and 60 to 70 extra-regional warships in our waters. The Indian Ocean region witnesses a transshipment of 66% of world's oil, 33% of bulk cargo, 50% of container shipment, and 70,000 ships transits the Malacca Strait. Therefore, detecting vessels over water, situational awareness about the airspace above water, and the underwater domain awareness is a challenging task. While the Indian Navy operates over a wide geographical expanse beyond the IOR, IOR is considered as a primary area of interest with 7 key choke points for ingress and egress of vessels. This slide highlights the peculiarities of the maritime domain which compound the detection, identification, and tracking complexities. The first, the sheer geographical vastness of the sea area and the 3-dimensional situational awareness, which I just highlighted earlier. Secondly, in accordance with international law, there are no boundaries to international access. And to complicate this issue, the seagoing vessels are involved in legal activities as well as the illegal activities which we are aware, such as smuggling, poaching, gun running, piracy, armed robbery, maritime terrorism, and pollution. It is in this complex, peculiar medium that traditional vigilance methods that we have are inadequate. And therefore, Navy needs the capability for a sustained and effective space-based surveillance and communication effort. Starting with the satellite communication, which is the linchpin of naval operation, the evolution of Satcom in Navy started with the commercial Inmarsat, which we inducted or started operating in 2005, and over the years built a credible and robust satellite communication network. Since 2013, with the induction of GSAT-7R, application of Satcom has evolved from allowing the exchange of the simple positional data of own and other ships, submarine and aircraft, real-time messaging into the present capability of ensuring primary connectivity between Afloat and Ashore ISR, information exchange, to augment MDA and op support. The present Navy satellite communication network, which is based on GSAT-7, was implemented through ISRO in 2013. It is an integrated project in which the space segment carried multiple band transponders. The ground segment comprises multiple hubs for redundancy. All ships, submarines, and aircrafts are interconnected on this network. The RUKMANI network has been designed with specifically configured satellite beams and with necessary security features. As we added more capability in terms of platforms and weapons, the satellite communication has become a critical enabler for Navy's net-centric operations to accelerate engagement cycles and operational tempo through networking, information sharing, shared situational awareness to shorten the OODA loop, thus transforming technology into tactics. Therefore, to meet the essential requirement to replace GSAT-7 and the network operations need, the follow-on satellite GSAT-7R would be launched soon in due course. This satellite comes with higher throughput, steerable beams, customizable footprints, and enhanced security overlays tailored to our cable-T induction. Globally, the focus of Satcom industry is veering towards high throughput with low latency satellites for the highest quality of service. As compared to the conventional satellites, these high throughput satellites with the frequency reuse are known to provide 100 Gbps capacity using spot beams for higher power. Thus, MEO and LEO constellation and the high throughput satellite would revolutionize satellite communication overseas. As this August audience would be aware, various private players are launching MEO and LEO communication constellations as depicted on the slide. And these capacity augmented opportunities they are the opportunities for Navy's NCO vision and implementation roadmap. And one of the most interesting capacity development that is happening in front of us is the OneWeb, wherein they are already ready with 648 satellites, just waiting for the license. It's a very critical capability that we are looking at for having our NCO roadmap going. Therefore, as we move ahead on NCO roadmap and we induct more NCO capable platforms and weapons, the Satcom perspective plan hinges on the diversity which is critical to obviate single point of failure. And the redundancies are being augmented through hiring multiple frequency bands, hiring of additional bandwidth on commercial satellites, and setting up geographically dispersed network Earth stations. Further, the Satcom networks have to be built on multi-layered security solution and with an integrated network management system for network and security control. In addition, we are constantly exploring alternative capacities and constellation, for example, in Inmarsat constellation and other commercial constellation for our future requirement. Having covered satellite communication, I will move on to the space-based surveillance, wherein the requirement of maritime surveillance poses a unique challenge, which is very, very different from over land. Unlike the land targets that are specific and stationary, the naval targets are mobile, which can only be detected through persistent oceanic surveillance, frequent revisits, and systematic search over a vast area. Essentially, the key maritime surveillance requirements include constellation of satellites operating multiple layers to provide initial detection through space-based ELINT, geostationary imaging satellites, wide swath SAR, AIS, and ADS Bravo. Thereafter, after we have fulfilled the requirement of initial detection, we move on to the confirmation of target, which would be required through fine resolution of EO, SAR, and IR payloads. And lastly, the implementation of real-time data transfer so as to minimize time late for mobile targets through suitably networked ground stations, followed by correlation of multiple sensor inputs and data fusion is critical. Just to give a broad overview as to how we envisage an optimum space-based maritime surveillance architecture should be. The first would be the GISAT for the persistent surveillance, which provides a wide swath satellite over IOR. And thereafter, we have a layered constellation of ELINT and medium-swath SAR satellite and a high-resolution satellite launched in synchronous orbit on the tail of the medium-swath satellite and can be dynamically tasked by the data relay satellites from the op centers. So, sir, after having spoken about the requirement of maritime surveillance, I would like to dwell upon some of the technological advancements. At this juncture, I would call them wish list, which are critical for preparing space for maritime domain. The first in the list are the resources important for space-based maritime domain awareness, which has evolved over the years in terms of technologies for persistent surveillance, early detection, and identification of targets. Navy needs a combination of space technologies as space-based AIS, space-based ADS Bravo, spectral and SAR imagery, and RF detection of EM emissions, which are now reaching high levels of sophistication to implement a credible surveillance cover, including the evolving foreign instrumentation signals intelligence, for collection and analysis of intercepted signals using a non-communication data transmission system such as telemetry, tracking, fusing, arming, and command systems. The next would be capability for a low latency information and high throughput requiring low orbitals and payload configuration through MEO and LEO constellations. We also need to focus on satellite build strategy to compress delivery schedules, including microsatellites with quick turnaround capability. In the future, as propulsion technologies advance, development of sea-based launches would also be a reality. Better civil military technology fusion model needs to be developed so that the India's resource base of young mind, which are ignited in the private sector, can use the test facilities and labs of ISRO, DPSU, DRDO, and armed forces. Coming to the payloads, EO and hyperspectral data analytics, including RF detection for space, specifically in maritime domain, would be a game changer. Integrated EO, SAR, RF inputs coupled with AI ML would enable automated analysis, change detection, and detailed activity monitoring. One of the key technologies which is allowing the quick growth in the field of satellite communication is the software-defined radios, which provides us much better flexibility, advanced communication schemes, and capability to be upgraded on orbit with robustness against interferences. Due to the dynamic nature of vessels at sea, and in order to make ISR inputs viable for naval operations, faster data downloading from satellites using geographically dispersed ground station would be necessary. Further, availability of data relay satellites would reduce download time and thus reduce the requirement of additional ground stations. Moreover, high-speed, secure ground and space network would be essential to disseminate real-time secure information to the ops centers. One of the key challenges we must be prepared for is how to address space systems from cyber threats. Proliferation of network connectivity and interdependence on applications have made space networks more vulnerable. Innovation-fueled growth and the use of COTS component without adequate inbuilt security make them sensitive to attacks, and in the inherent characteristic of space assets, which include wide coverage, the non-availability of repair capability, the cascading risk, and the third-party facilities raises additional security challenges. The space products must shift from the perimeter security that they offer today to zero trust architecture, and the principles of never trust, always verify, and the least privilege must be imbibed in all our space networks. I would conclude by saying proliferation of space system has enabled increased integration of space-based capabilities into military operations. Furthermore, commercial participation has paved a way for induction of state-of-the-art space technologies. It is, however, crucial that we have trusted commercial partners who would provide services in peace as well as war. Parallelly, we need to create a pool of technically qualified personnel to efficiently utilize these space-based resources. Maritime-based operations, due to their expanse and transnational nature, inherently needs to be based on space-based capabilities for communication and ISR requirement. With that, I have finished, sir.
Thank you, Nair.